Congressman, thanks so much for joining us here on the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Yeah, it's good to be with you this afternoon.
Absolutely. So we have you on today. For folks that aren't aware, Congressman Fitzgerald is chairman of the House subcommittee that looks at antitrust, state regulatory reform, and that sort of thing. And one of the topics that you guys are looking at is perhaps how difficult it has become to watch your favorite sports teams. Can you give us an idea of how this came onto your radar and what exactly your subcommittee is looking at?
Yeah, I was very fortunate at the beginning of this Congress. Chairman Jim Jordan had asked me to serve in that capacity to oversee a number of different things. And I know antitrust could be kind of confusing for people, and what does it include? Anytime you see a lot of corporate mergers, or if you see something that's been discussed as a possible merger, oftentimes the antitrust committee has oversight over that. And we'll schedule a full hearing of the committee to explore. Oftentimes the information that comes out of that subcommittee can be utilized by the Department of Justice to, in fact, make a judgment call as to whether or not they think that those mergers are in fact legal, or if there's some type of arrangement, I guess is the best way to describe it, that has a severe impact on competition in what is otherwise considered free market economy. So it can be mergers of banks, it could be mergers of corporations. One we looked at was Netflix, Paramount, I should say, which is a super high profile one that we explored last year. There's talk about mergers in commercial airlines right now between United and American and Spirit, and so it's another good example, I think, which people may grasp that the committee has the charge of overseeing that and working through those types of issues. And the latest one that's garnered a lot of attention is because the Department of Justice on their own, along with the FCC, has started to take a look at the Sports Broadcasting Act, which is a statute that's been in place for many, many years. It was signed into law in 1961 by President Kennedy. That's how long it's been around. Because sports broadcasting has changed. And, it's very obvious that just as of the last, I'd say, decade probably, with the significant shifts in the major professional leagues, it has garnered a lot of attention. And then also with collegiate sports, as there's been discussions by some in the private sector of creating some larger network that would broadcast the large conferences games. So we have been contemplating and talking about possibly holding a hearing on that topic. When I talk to people in the district, they're very frustrated, I think, by the paywalls and the subscriptions that are needed to watch the major league sports franchises in Wisconsin. And it's not just Wisconsin, it's really across the nation right now.
And no doubt. We hear it from whether they be NFL fans, MLB fans, NBA fans, no matter what. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but if you were to go get all the subscriptions that are required to see every single game, it's costing hundreds, if not more than $1,000. So is your, and when I'm trying to hear you correctly, is your subcommittee going to be holding a hearing on this? Is that happening, or is it just kind of being discussed separately of the DOJ review of the Sports Broadcasting Act of 1961?
We have not made the final call on that at this point of when it would be, but it's certainly something that the legal team that works for me as the chairman of the committee is exploring and talking to individuals that could come in that would have some expertise to be a witness So the final call hasn't been made, but it's something that we're working towards, I guess the best way to describe it.
Uh, Even the headlines of that caught the NFL's attention, especially the Packers' attention, which I think perhaps caught some people here by surprise. It's like, well, what do they care? And having done the story this week, they're worried about the protections that are brought forth by the antitrust protection that is within that piece of legislation, the Sports Broadcasting Act of 1961. Is that something that you guys will look at perhaps removing, even though the Packers call that such an act an existential threat?
Uh, that would be highly unlikely. Uh, the It's not about the teams; it's about the leagues. So the focus is actually on the NFL, Major League Baseball, the NBA. I mean, it's about the leagues and the way that they're handling the teams that are members of their leagues, and the way they schedule games and cut deals on how those games are broadcast. So it really doesn't have anything to do with the individual teams. It has zero impact on market share. It The small franchises within these leagues, which we're very sensitive to, especially in Wisconsin, right?
Absolutely.
Um, Revenue sharing is not affected by anything that I've heard or seen so far. It's really about making sure that the fans continue to have access to that line of entertainment. And, there is, whenever something is carved out in antitrust statute, Congress has a responsibility to make sure that they're certainly doing oversight and making sure that everyone that is benefiting from that antitrust statute is still working in the best interest of the consumer. So that's really what this comes down to. It's not about the teams; it's about the leagues.
Sure. I just want to make sure I hear you correctly because it is let's peel back the onion. So for the NFL, for fans that aren't aware, it is the league that negotiates its TV deals with the major networks, and now of course Amazon, Netflix, insert streaming service here. It's the profits of those that are taken and split up in terms of revenue shares. So it's not like the old days where the Packers. They sent us some clips from their history books. They used to sell their games to CBS for $81,000, basically. And what they found is that their counterparts in the major markets like Baltimore, for example, were selling them for much more. Makes sense. It's a bigger TV viewing market. There's a lot more eyeballs. So they felt that they couldn't compete. What the Packers have told us is that revenue share component from the media rights deals last year was like $432 million. It's a huge chunk of change, but it's what they use to actually operate the salary cap, which for viewers at home is the amount of money that teams can spend on the roster. So that is particularly tied to the media rights deals that they say are only there because of the antitrust immunity that the SBA provided. So you guys are looking at that, but you're sensitive to the fact that this could have effects downstream in terms of the small market franchises, it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, you could make adjustments as somebody that subscribes to now the third year a change when it comes to Major League Baseball, right? If you want to access the Milwaukee Brewers right now, you're on a different viewing package and setup than you were the last two seasons when they went from Bally to FanDuel to now MLB. So, there's a lot of shifts there. And each year, those leagues are the ones that negotiate those. So, what really, I think, garnered the attention of the Department of Justice, uh, and this is my take on it, is a lawsuit that was filed, a class action suit that was filed against the NFL in relationship to Sunday Ticket. And it was heard by the Ninth Circuit. And if you talk to attorneys in D.C. or those involved in the case, it seemed to have gone the plaintiff's way. So, I think the information that came out of that trial has been, um, you know, it's been scrutinized, and a lot of people are saying that the league is in a bad spot right now. So, it's another reason I think DOJ has announced this week that they're going to open an investigation, and that the FCC is also going to open an investigation into this. So it's it's a lot of legal channels that are being utilized right now, but it's part of that bigger discussion, which has drawn in the Sports Broadcasting Act as part of it. And like I said earlier, college sports, and with what I consider, you know, a huge amount of inconsistencies in the way that that's operating right now. It's a big mess, quite honestly. And we have a bill in Congress that looks like it's moving that would address a number of the concerns there, including transfers and the amount of money involved, and players having legitimate agents. There's a lot of different issues related to that too. And there's some people pushing to get college athletics under the Sports Broadcasting Act as well. Then you may see the actual changes to statutes that could take into consideration whether or not you want to have a discussion about paywalls and subscriptions. So, it's very convoluted right now. It's very complicated. But we have a small slice of it with the antitrust committee, but we're there to shed light on these topics, and it's up to the DOJ and the FCC to pursue legal avenues, and then the courts. It's being adjudicated. It's going to continue to be in the federal courts, and so it's difficult to at least right now predict exactly where we're going to end up, though.
Yeah, it's early days, and I'm glad you mentioned college sports because it is a spider web. And the Brewers, too. We didn't know until the morning of opening day necessarily
That's
which
right.
channel they were going to be on. We knew the prices if you're streamers, but it certainly feels like there's a generational bit of a divide there in terms of what people are comfortable doing that versus just expecting them on their cable channel. To that end, I'm curious, how have the pro sports teams here in Wisconsin? I know the Packers have been kind of banging the drum for this, but have you heard from the Bucks? Have you heard from the Brewers about where they feel with everything?
No, I have not. And again, I don't expect that, just from the perspective of it's about the leagues and the association between the owners of the teams and the league. But the leagues, professional leagues, those, they run the teams, right? I mean, we like to, I think, sometimes presume that each team is independent, especially here in Wisconsin. But the leagues are the ones that are making the call, especially on the media portion of it. So it's oftentimes you think about your own local franchises, your own teams, but it's really the leagues that are the big part of this decision. The other thing I'll just say is that's being affected is bars and restaurants. The Wisconsin Restaurant Association has weighed in on this topic, and there's been significant changes to the way that bars and restaurants are able to offer their venues and somehow incorporate that into some type of sports bar where people clearly in Wisconsin want to go to their tavern and watch these games, and a lot of times it's they kind of pull the rug out from underneath the taverns and the restaurants. And it's another topic that's part of this discussion, is that how that's viewed as well.
I'm glad you brought that up because I don't think that's something that a lot of people think of. You go to your tavern of choice, if they have, dozens, if not 30, 40 TVs, well, it's not necessarily as simple as one cable box and then beaming it out all the way there. So I can certainly see how the cost goes up. Last question I would have for you is, okay, so we have the DOJ review, we have the House subcommittee that you chair that's looking at this as well. Then last week, Senator Baldwin announces her bill that's, I believe it's for the Fans Act, and to try to make it free for fans to see on some sort of in-state network. Have you had a chance? When I reported on it this week, the bill text wasn't out. I don't know if there will be an accompanying bill in the House, but have you had any discussions with her on that? Because we are kind of looking at these three different avenues, all relatively exploring the same thing.
Yeah, I've not spoken directly to Senator Baldwin about it, but I have seen kind of what she's done publicly on just presenting the ideas in and around the legislation. I haven't read the bill either. I haven't seen the bill.
Okay.
But I don't disagree with, I think, the premise of it. She's what it looks like is she's attacking it from the other angle, just trying to mandate that specific games will be aired. And because I think, it's kind of a mixed bag from state to state, which teams are viewed, which teams are available. This would kind of mandate, okay, these are the games that are going to be aired. I'm not sure how practical or if that'll work. I mean, if it would work, it might be something that you would be supportive of, but it certainly would result in redoing the Sports Broadcasting Act. It would have to be revisited at that point. So, but I haven't cast my support in favor or against it. It might be some of the things that the senator's doing might make sense. I'm not sure, but I have not read the text of the bill.
All right. He is Congressman Scott Fitzgerald, Republican from Wisconsin. Thanks so much for joining us here on the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Thank you. Good to be with you guys.
Absolutely. Thank you.